Hey guys, tonight we slip into the steamy jungles of ancient Cambodia, where the Khmer Empire's lost cities rise like fever dreams from the earth. Picture yourself standing on a dirt path, sweat trickling down your neck, as cicadas hum and the faint outline of a lotus-shaped temple looms through the mist. The air smells of wet stone and moss, and you're about to wander through a world of god-kings, hidden ruins, and water systems so clever they'd make modern engineers blush. Fair warning, you probably wouldn't survive a week here. Between the monsoon floods and the snakes, it's no picnic. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start in the 9th century, where the Khmer Empire is just a spark in the heart of Southeast Asia. The year's around 802, and a man named Jayavarman II is about to change everything. He's not just any warlord. He's got a vision to unify the scattered chiefdoms of Cambodia under one banner. You're there as he climbs a sacred hill, Phnom Kulen, with priests chanting and incense curling into the sky. He declares himself a god king, a Devaraja, claiming divine authority from the Hindu god Shiva. This isn't just a power grab, it's a cultural earthquake. Historians agree this moment marks the Khmer Empire's birth, centralizing power in a way that'll shape centuries of temple building and conquest. But let's get quirky for a second. Legend says Jayavarman didn't just rely on charisma. He might have used a sacred sword, supposedly blessed by Shiva himself, to seal his claim. No one's found this blade, but locals still whisper about it being hidden in a cave somewhere. Good luck searching. You'd probably trip over a cobra first. Historians still argue whether this sword was real or just a spicy bit of propaganda to hype up Jayavarman's rule. You're walking now through the early Khmer heartland, where rice paddies stretch like green mirrors under the monsoon sky. The Khmer are farmers, warriors, and builders, but their real genius is water. They're obsessed with controlling it, channeling it, worshipping it. Every temple, every city starts with this, the land's pulse, tied to rivers and rains. You see workers digging canals, their feet sinking into mud, as they lay the groundwork for a capital called Hariharalaya. It's not Angkor yet, but it's close. The city's got a temple at its heart, Ba Kong, with towers shaped like budding lotuses. You run your hand over the warm sandstone, feeling the faint carvings of gods and dancers. This is where the Khmer start dreaming big. The lotus shape isn't random. It's a nod to Hindu and Buddhist cosmology, where the lotus rises pure from muddy waters, a symbol of creation and divinity. Every temple you'll see, whether it's Angkor Wat or some forgotten ruin, carries this obsession. You're starting to notice the humidity now, sticking to your skin like a second shirt. A farmer offers you a coconut, hacked open with a machete. You drink, but spill half of it down your chin. Classic rookie move. The locals chuckle, and you realize they've been perfecting this life for generations. Before Angkor becomes the star, Hariharalaya is the blueprint. You watch priests burn incense, their chants drifting over the canals. The city's laid out like a cosmic map, with temples mimicking the stars. It's practical, too. Those canals feed rice fields, keeping bellies full and armies marching. But don't get too cozy. Jayavarman's empire is young, and the jungle's always watching, ready to swallow anything left unguarded. You're already wondering how they built something this grand without bulldozers or Wi-Fi. Spoiler, it's all sweat, math, and a touch of divine ego. You're still in the Khmer Empire's early days, but the scene's shifting. Hariharaya's bustling, with its canals and rice fields, but now you're trudging toward the future. Angkor, the city that'll make the Khmer legendary. It's the late 9th century, and King Yasovarman I, Jayavarman II's successor, has big plans. You're sweating under a palm tree as workers haul sandstone blocks, their chants mixing with the creak of ox carts. Yasovarman's building the first lotus-shaped temples in Angkor, and you're here to see the foundations laid. The air's thick with dust and the scent of burning charcoal from nearby kilns. Angkor's birth is a historical cornerstone. Yasovarman moves the capital here around 889, naming it Yasodharapura. He's not just building a city, he's crafting a cosmic stage, with temples aligned to the stars and the Hindu god Vishnu. You stand on a half-finished mound, watching masons stack stones for Phnom Bakheng, Angkor's first major temple. Its stepped terraces mimic a sacred mountain, and those lotus bud towers are starting to take shape. You squint at the horizon, where the jungle stretches endless, and realize this place is meant to outlast empires. Spoiler: it almost does. Now for the quirky bit. Workers here believe the stones are blessed by Nagas, mythical serpent spirits who guard the land. Before a block is set, priests sprinkle it with holy water and whisper chants to keep the Nagas happy. You're handed a clay amulet shaped like a coiled snake, supposedly for good luck. You pocket it, but let's be real. You're still dodging scorpions in your sandals. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely spiritual or a clever way to keep workers motivated through grueling labor. You're walking the early streets of Angkor now, dodging piles of laterite and kids chasing a stray chicken. The city's a grid of dirt paths, with wooden houses on stilts to survive the monsoons. Temples are the heart, though. You climb Phnom Bakheng steps, your thighs burning, to catch a sunset view. The lotus towers glow pink, and you can almost feel the divine ego baked into every stone. Yasovarman's goal is clear: make Angkor a city that screams, "We're chosen by the gods." You're impressed, but also wondering where the nearest shade is. This heat is no joke. The lotus shape is everywhere, even in smaller shrines dotting the countryside. You visit one, a crumbling heap called Preah Ko. Its towers, carved with delicate garlands, look like flowers budding from the earth. You run your fingers over the sandstone, feeling the grit. A local monk, his saffron robes catching the breeze, tells you the lotus represents purity rising from chaos. You nod, but you're distracted by a monkey stealing your mango. Classic Angkor moment. Nature's always one step ahead. Let's talk logistics. Building these temples takes thousands of workers, from quarrymen to sculptors. You watch a team hoist a stone block with ropes and bamboo scaffolding, their rhythm like a slow dance. No machines, just muscle and math. The Khmer are masters of geometry, aligning temples with solstices and equinoxes. You're starting to see why Angkor's a big deal. It's not just pretty, it's a machine for worship and power. But don't get cocky. One wrong step, and you're face down in a ditch. You're not exactly Indiana Jones material. The city's growing fast, with markets springing up and traders haggling over fish and bronze. You smell grilled catfish and hear the clink of cowrie shells used as currency. Remember that Naga amulet? You're clutching it now, half convinced it'll save you from the chaos of Angkor's construction zone. The lotus towers are rising, and you're caught in the hum of a city being born. Yasovarman's dream is taking shape, but the jungle's watching, biding its time. You're standing in the shadow of a half-built temple in Angkor, the air heavy with jasmine and dust. The lotus-shaped towers are starting to make sense now, and you're about to dive into why they're more than just pretty architecture. It's the 10th century, and the Khmer are weaving their beliefs into every stone. You're surrounded by workers chanting softly, their voices blending with the chirp of crickets. The lotus isn't just a flower here, it's a cosmic code, and you're unraveling it step by sweaty step. Mainstream fact: the lotus shape in Khmer temples comes from Hindu and Buddhist traditions, symbolizing purity and divine creation. You're at Phnom Bakheng again, where the central tower mimics a lotus bud rising from a square base, representing Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe. Priests in white robes pace the terraces, offering rice to Vishnu. The design's no accident. Every angle, every carving is meant to connect Earth to the heavens. You feel small, like you're trespassing in a god's backyard. The Khmer believed their temples could channel divine energy, and you're starting to buy it, just a little. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some locals swear the lotus towers were built to hum, not musically, but with a faint vibration during monsoons, when wind and rain hit the stones just right. You lean close to a tower, ear pressed against the warm sandstone, hoping to catch it. Nothing but a mosquito buzzing in your face. Typical. Historians still argue whether this humming was intentional, a kind of acoustic engineering, or just a romantic myth spun by later generations. You're walking a temple corridor now, your sandals slapping against worn stone. The walls are carved with apsaras, celestial dancers with almond eyes and faint smiles. They're lotus-like too, their headdresses curling like petals. You pause to trace one with your finger, marveling at the detail. A nearby monk explains that the lotus represents the soul's journey from muddy chaos to enlightenment. You nod, but you're distracted by a kid selling lotus flowers for offerings. You buy one, mostly to look cool, but it's wilting in the heat already. Rookie mistake. Let's zoom out. The lotus isn't just in temples, it's in everything. You see it in bronze bowls at the market, in the way rice fields are laid out like petals around a village. You're starting to notice how the Khmer obsess over symmetry, from their city grids to their myths. You visit a smaller shrine, Lole, its towers stubby but still lotus-shaped. The carvings here show Vishnu sleeping on a serpent, a lotus sprouting from his navel. It's weirdly soothing, like a bedtime story for gods. You're tempted to nap right there, but a stray dog's eyeing you like lunch. The spiritual angle runs deep. You watch a priest pour water over a stone linga, a symbol of Shiva, while chanting in Sanskrit. The lotus shape ties into this too: creation, rebirth, the cycle of life. You're starting to feel the weight of it, like you're caught in a cosmic loop. A trader nearby offers you betel nut to chew. You try it, but it tastes like regret. You spit it out when he's not looking. Smooth move. Don't get too mystical, though. The lotus design's practical, too. Those tiered towers shed rainwater like a dream, keeping temples intact through centuries of monsoons. You're dodging puddles now, wishing you'd packed better shoes. The Khmer knew how to build for eternity, but they didn't account for your terrible sense of direction. You're lost in a maze of lotus towers, and a monkey's laughing at you from a tree. Figures. The lotus is everywhere, whispering its secrets, and you're just trying to keep up. You're in the heart of Angkor now, the 12th century, and the city's a sprawling masterpiece of lotus-shaped temples and bustling markets. But let's step away from the god kings for a moment. You're about to live a day as an ordinary rice farmer, the backbone of the Khmer Empire. Dawn's breaking, painting the sky pink over the paddies, and you're already knee-deep in mud, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and lotus blooms. Roosters crow, and somewhere, A temple bell hums. This is the grind that keeps Angkor's grandeur alive, and you're in for a long day. Mainstream fact: Angkor's economy thrived on rice agriculture, with farmers producing surplus crops to feed a city of nearly 1 million people. You're out in the fields, gripping a wooden hoe, breaking the soil as water buffalo plod nearby. The Khmer perfected wet rice farming, using canals and reservoirs to irrigate fields year-round. You see the glint of a nearby beret, a massive man-made lake that stores monsoon water. It's not just practical, it's sacred, tied to the lotus symbolism you noticed earlier. Without farmers like you, those temples would be empty dreams. Now for the quirky bit. Farmers sometimes used fish traps in their paddies, letting carp and catfish swim in to fertilize the soil with their waste. You're setting one up, weaving bamboo into a cage, but a slippery eel escapes and slaps your leg. You yelp and a nearby kid laughs. Great, you're the village comedian now. Historians still argue whether these fish farming tricks were widespread or just a clever hack by a few savvy farmers. You're trudging through the paddy, your back aching, but the rhythm's almost soothing. The sun's climbing, and you're sweating through your krama, a checkered scarf every farmer wears. You tie it around your head, feeling briefly cool, until a mosquito lands on your neck. You slap it, but it's already won. Your neighbor, an old woman with a beetle-stained grin, hands you a bamboo cup of palm wine. You sip, and it's sweet but strong. Probably not OSHA approved for fieldwork. You're starting to understand why farmers sing as they work. It's the only way to stay sane. Midday hits, and you're under a banyan tree for lunch. Your meal's sticky rice wrapped in a lotus leaf with a side of grilled frog. Tastes like chicken, if chicken swam in swamps. You're surrounded by other farmers, their chatter mixing with the buzz of dragonflies. They're gossiping about a priest who tripped during a temple ceremony. You laugh, but quietly. Those priests have pull. The lotus flowers in the nearby canal bob gently, and you're reminded how even this humble life ties to Angkor's cosmic obsession. Let's talk routine. You're up before dawn, tending fields, then maybe repairing a canal bank in the afternoon. Evenings for family. Wooden stilt houses creak as kids play below. You visit a local shrine offering a lotus bud to a worn Vishnu statue. The priest nods, but you're pretty sure he's eyeing your rice stash. Religion's everywhere, but so is practicality. You're saving for a new buffalo because the old one's got an attitude problem. You pat its flank, and it snorts. Rude. Sunset paints the paddies gold, and you're heading home, feet caked in mud. You pass a temple, its lotus towers glowing like they're lit from within. You're too tired to pray, but you bow anyway. This life's tough. Monsoons, bugs, and the occasional tax collector make sure of that. But there's pride here. You're feeding an empire, and those fancy kings owe you one. For now, you're dreaming of a bath and maybe another sip of that palm wine. Don't trip in the dark, though. The frogs are watching. You're back in Angkor, the 12th century, but you're trading the muddy paddies for something grander. The sprawling water systems that keep this empire alive. You're standing on the edge of a massive beret, a rectangular reservoir stretching so far it looks like an inland sea. The water's still, reflecting lotus towers in the distance, and the air hums with the faint croak of frogs. It's dawn, and you're here to see the Khmer's engineering genius up close. The kind of thing that makes you wonder if they had a secret blueprint from the Gong. Your sandals are still caked with yesterday's mud, but you're too awestruck to care. Mainstream fact: the Khmer built enormous berets, like the West Beret, to store monsoon water for irrigation and drinking, supporting Angkor's million-strong population. You're walking along the beret's embankment, a raised wall of packed earth wide enough for ox carts. It's over 7 kilometers long, holding millions of cubic meters of water. You dip your hand in, expecting it to be murky, but it's clear, filtered by layers of sand and stone. This isn't just a lake, it's a machine, feeding canals that snake through rice fields and temples. Without it, Angkor's lotus-shaped dreams would have dried up fast. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some priests believed the berets were home to water spirits who demanded offerings of lotus flowers and rice. You're watching a ceremony where priests toss petals into the water, their chants drifting like smoke. You're tempted to join in, but you trip over a root and nearly fall in. Smooth move, champ. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely religious or a way to rally workers for the back-breaking task of maintaining the berets. You're exploring the system now, following a canal that glints like a silver thread through the jungle. Workers are out here, knee-deep, clearing silt with woven baskets. You try to help, scooping mud, but it's heavier than it looks, and you're pretty sure you just splashed your own face. A worker laughs, handing you a coconut to drink from. You're starting to get why everyone's so chill. Coconut water's basically ancient Gatorade. The canal's banks are lined with lotus plants, their pink blooms bobbing like they're eavesdropping on the empire's secrets. Let's talk scale. The West Beret alone could fill thousands of Olympic pools, and it's just one of several. You're climbing a small hill to get a better view, your calves screaming. From here, the beret looks like a giant mirror, reflecting clouds and the faint outline of Angkor Wat's towers. The Khmer didn't just build for function, they made it beautiful, aligning reservoirs with the cosmos. You're starting to suspect they were showing off a bit. Like, hey Vishnu, check out our plumbing. The berets aren't just practical, they're sacred. You visit a temple island, Neek Peen, smack in the middle of another beret. It's a maze of pools and lotus-shaped shrines, meant to mimic a mythical Himalayan lake. You wade through a shallow pool, feeling the cool stone underfoot, and spot a carved serpent spouting water. It's eerie, like you've wandered into a god's bathtub. A monk nearby is meditating and you try to be quiet, but your stomach growls. Should have eaten more of that grilled frog yesterday. Don't get too comfy, though. Maintaining these berets is brutal. You see workers hauling earth, their faces streaked with sweat. Monsoons can flood the system, and droughts can starve it. You're starting to realize why that Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng feels heavier in your pocket. The Khmer's waterworks are a miracle, but they're fragile, tied to the whims of rain and faith. For now, you're just happy to stand here, lotus petals floating nearby, as the beret reflects a city that thinks it'll last forever. You're leaving the shimmering berets behind, trading Angkor's grandeur for a quieter corner of the Khmer world. It's still the 12th century, and you're trekking through dense jungle, the air thick with the buzz of cicadas and the scent of damp moss. Your sandals crunch on fallen leaves as you stumble upon Tomanon, a forgotten city tucked away from the tourist trails. Its lotus-shaped towers peek through vines, half swallowed by the forest, and you're here to wander its ruins, feeling like the only soul for miles. The silence is heavy, broken only by a distant monkey's chatter. Mainstream fact. Tomanon, built around the 11th century, is a compact temple city dedicated to Vishnu, showcasing the Khmer's knack for symmetrical design. You're standing in its central courtyard, where 2 lotus bud towers rise from a sandstone platform. The stonework's precise, with lintels carved in floral patterns that echo the lotus obsession you've seen everywhere. Historians say Tomanon was likely a royal chapel, a pit stop for pilgrims heading to nearby Angkor Wat. You run your hand over a weathered pillar, feeling the grooves of a 1,000-year-old chisel. It's humbling, like touching time itself. Now for the quirky tidbit. Locals believe Tamenon's stones hold echoes of ancient prayers, audible only at dawn. You're up early, ear pressed to a wall, hoping for a whisper. All you get is a spider crawling across your arm. Nice try, universe. Historians still argue whether Tamenon was a standalone city or just an extension of Angkor's sprawl, a debate fueled by its small size and perfect craftsmanship. You're exploring the ruins now, ducking under a collapsed archway. The jungles claimed half the site. Fig trees strangle columns, their roots like frozen waterfalls. You spot a faded Apsara carving, her lotus headdress barely visible. You're tempted to take a selfie, but a bat flaps out of a crevice, and you nearly drop your imaginary phone. Smooth move. The air's cooler here, shaded by the canopy, and you're starting to feel like an explorer, minus the fedora and questionable morals. Let's talk layout. Tamenon's tiny compared to Angkor Wat, but it's a jewel. You walk its main axis, a straight path flanked by laterite walls. The towers are aligned east-west, catching the sunrise like they're meant to glow. You climb a cracked staircase, your knees protesting, and find a small shrine with a broken linga. A lotus petal, real or carved, you can't tell, lies in the dust. You leave it there, partly out of respect, partly because you're not sure it's not cursed. The vibe's different here. Angkor's hustle feels far away. No markets, no priests, just you and the stones. You sit on a fallen block, sipping from a bamboo flask a local gave you. The water's warm, tasting faintly of earth, but you're grateful. A lizard skitters by, eyeing you like you owe it rent. You're starting to see why Tamenon's overlooked. It's not flashy, but its quiet beauty hits hard, like finding a secret level in a game you thought you'd mastered. You're wondering about the people who built this. Were they like the farmers you met, sweating for the glory of kings? You spot a worn inscription, too faint to read, and imagine it's a worker's name, carved on a dare. The jungle's relentless, though. You hear a branch snap, and your heart skips, probably just a deer, but you're clutching that Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng anyway. Tamenon's a ghost town now, its lotus towers standing guard over memories the world forgot. You're not ready to leave, but the path's calling, and Angkor's got more secrets to spill. You're back in the heart of Angkor, the early 12th century, where the air crackles with ambition. The jungle's still close, but now you're surrounded by the clatter of chisels and the bellow of oxen. King Suryavarman II, the Khmer Empire's rock star, is in charge, and he's got a vision bigger than anything you've seen. You're standing on a dusty plain, watching workers haul massive sandstone blocks for Angkor Wat, the ultimate lotus-shaped temple. The sun's relentless, and you're wiping sweat from your brow, marveling at the sheer audacity of this king's temple-building frenzy. Mainstream fact: Suryavarman II, ruling from 1113 to around 1150, commissioned Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument in the world, dedicated to Vishnu. You're at the construction site, where thousands of laborers are turning a swampy plain into a cosmic masterpiece. The central tower, a towering lotus bud, is already rising, its silhouette dominating the skyline. Historians estimate it took 300,000 workers and 6,000 elephants to build this in just 37 years. You're dodging a cart piled with stone, feeling the ground shake as an elephant lumbers by. This is empire-level flexing, and Suryavarman's not messing around. Now for the quirky tidbit. Workers believed the king's dreams were guided by Vishnu himself, who whispered designs for the temple's lotus towers. You overhear a mason joking that Suryavarman's nightmares probably involved misplaced stones. You chuckle, but when you trip over a rope and nearly faceplant, You wonder if Vishnu's got a sense of humor too. Historians still argue whether Suryavarman saw Angkor Wat as a temple, a palace, or his own ticket to immortality. You're walking the site now, your sandals gritty with dust, the scales dizzying. 5 lotus towers, surrounded by moats and galleries, all aligned with the stars. You climb a scaffold, heart pounding, to watch a worker carve a lotus petal into a lintel. His chisel moves like it's dancing, and you're half tempted to try it, but you'd probably chip your own thumb off. Down below, priests burn incense, blessing each stone. You smell the smoke, mixed with the tang of sweat and earth, and it's like the whole empire's breathing together. Let's talk ego. Suryavarman's not just building a temple, he's rewriting the cosmos. You visit a half-finished gallery, its walls etched with scenes of the king riding elephants, his crown glinting. He's portrayed as Vishnu's equal, which is bold, even for a god-king. You're starting to see why that farmer you met griped about taxes. Every rice grain funds this madness. A kid nearby offers you a lotus flower for luck. You take it, but it's already wilting. Typical. The lotus obsession's in overdrive here. You notice the moat, shaped like a giant petal, reflecting the towers at dawn. It's beautiful, but also practical. Flood control and a handy crocodile pit for intruders. You're keeping your distance, remembering that eel from the paddy. The workers' rhythm is hypnotic, their chants syncing with the clink of tools. You're almost lulled into a trance, but a stray ox nudges you, and you're back to reality. Note to self, don't daydream near livestock. Suryavarman's everywhere, even if you don't see him. His banners flap in the breeze, and you hear whispers of his war campaigns against the Chams. You're starting to get why he needs Angkor Wat. It's a statement, a legacy carved in stone. You sit on a block, sipping warm water from your bamboo flask, and watch the lotus towers glow orange in the sunset. This is peak Khmer, but you're already sensing the weight of it all. Building eternity is exhausting, and you're just a bystander. For now, you're content to watch, lotus in hand, as Suryavarman's dream takes shape. You're still in the thick of Angkor's golden age, the 12th century. But now you're zeroing in on the unsung heroes of Suryavarman II's temple-building spree, the artisans. You're crouched in a dusty workshop near Angkor Wat, the air sharp with the tang of chipped stone and sweat. Around you, sculptors are carving intricate bas-reliefs into sandstone, their chisels moving with a precision that feels almost otherworldly. The lotus-shaped towers loom nearby, but you're here to watch the magic that brings these temples to life, one delicate stroke at a time. Your hands are gritty from touching a half-carved block, and you're trying not to sneeze from the dust. Mainstream fact: Khmer artisans created thousands of bas-reliefs across Angkor's temples, depicting myths, battles, and daily life with unmatched detail. You're staring at a wall panel showing Vishnu churning the sea of milk, a Hindu myth where gods and demons fight over immortality's elixir. The figures, apsaras, nagas, and lotus blooms, are so lifelike you half expect them to move. Historians say these reliefs weren't just art. They were propaganda, glorifying kings and gods while teaching the illiterate masses their place in the cosmos. You trace a carved lotus petal, marveling at how it seems to float off the stone. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some artisans hid tiny signatures in their work, doodles like a fish or a rogue lotus bud that didn't fit the design. You're squinting at a corner of the relief, hunting for one when a stray chip of stone pings your forehead. You flinch, and a nearby sculptor grins. Guess you're not cut out for the chisel life. Historians still argue whether these marks were personal flair or secret rebellion against the rigid temple plans. You're moving through the workshop now, dodging piles of sandstone and ducking under bamboo scaffolding. The sculptors are focused, their faces lined with concentration. One's carving an apsara, her headdress a cascade of lotus petals. You watch him etch her smile, so subtle it's almost a smirk. You're tempted to ask how he does it. But he's in the zone and you're not about to interrupt a guy with a hammer. The air's alive with the tap-tap of chisels, like a heartbeat sinking the whole crew. Let's talk process. These artisans start with raw sandstone, hauled from quarries miles away. You see a block being shaped, its edges smoothed with grit and water. The sculptor sketches the design in charcoal, then carves layer by layer. It's slow, months for a single panel. You try lifting a mallet, just to feel it, and nearly drop it on your foot. A kid nearby laughs, offering you a sip of palm wine instead. You take it, but it's stronger than expected, and you're coughing like a rookie. Classic. The lotus motif's everywhere, of course. You spot it in the apsara's jewelry, in the curling tails of carved nagas, even in the tools. Some chisels have lotus-shaped handles. You're starting to feel like you're in a lotus-themed fever dream, but it's oddly soothing. You visit a smaller relief, showing farmers like the ones you met, their paddies dotted with lotus blooms. It's a reminder that this art isn't just for kings. It's the empire's pulse, carved for eternity. You're starting to respect these artisans who pour their lives into stone while you're just trying not to trip. Don't get too cozy, though. This work's grueling. Long hours, blazing heat, and the constant pressure to please priests and royals. You see a sculptor pause, rubbing his cramped hands, his eyes tired but proud. You're clutching that Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng, wondering if it's bringing you luck or just collecting dust. As the sun dips, the reliefs glow golden, and you're struck by how these carvings outlasted their makers. The lotus towers stand tall, but it's the artisan's hands that made them sing. You're still in Angkor's 12th century, but the mood's shifting. The lotus-shaped temples like Angkor Wat stand proud, their stones freshly carved and gleaming. But you're about to see the jungle's first move in a centuries-long chess game against the Khmer's grand designs. You're trekking through dense forest, the air heavy with humidity and the sweet rot of fallen leaves. Vines curl around crumbling walls, and you're here to witness nature's slow, relentless reclamation of these sacred sites. Your sandals are soaked from a stream, and a parrot squawks overhead like it's laughing at your soggy state. Mainstream fact. By the late 12th century, Angkor's temples were already battling the jungle, as monsoons and unchecked growth damaged stonework and canals. You're at a lesser-known shrine, East Mabon, its lotus towers tilting slightly from years of rain and root invasion. Historians note that the Khmer's water systems, like the berets you saw, needed constant maintenance to keep the jungle at bay. Without it, trees and floods could choke a temple in decades. You touch a cracked lintel, feeling moss under your fingers, and realize even god-kings couldn't outmuscle nature forever. Now for the quirky tidbit. Locals believed strangler figs, those trees that hug stones like pythons, were possessed by spirits who guarded or cursed the temples. You're eyeing a fig tree wrapped around a lotus tower, its roots like fingers prying the stone apart. You half-jokingly toss a lotus petal at it, hoping to appease the spirit. A gust of wind sends it flying back at your face. Nice one, spirit. Historians still argue whether the Khmer saw these trees as divine or destructive, or maybe both. You're wandering deeper into the overgrowth now, ducking under low branches. The jungle's a cacophony, cicadas, frogs, and the occasional rustle that makes you clutch that Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng. You find a collapsed gallery, its bas-reliefs half buried in earth. A carved apsara peeks out, her lotus headdress chipped but defiant. You're tempted to clear the dirt, but a centipede scuttles across, and you're suddenly fine leaving archaeology to the pros. You're not exactly cut out for this Indiana Jones gig. Let's talk mechanics. The jungle's takeover starts small. Seeds lodge in stone cracks, fed by monsoon rains. Over years, roots split even the toughest sandstone. You see it happening at a nearby wall, where a sapling's already prying stones apart like a slow-motion wrecking ball. The Khmer tried to fight back, burning undergrowth and repairing temples, but it was like bailing out a sinking ship with a spoon. You're starting to get why those farmers you met were so practical. Nature's the real boss here. The scene's eerie but beautiful. You sit on a fallen block, sipping from your bamboo flask, and watch sunlight filter through the canopy, dappling the lotus towers. It's like the jungle's painting its own masterpiece over the Khmer's. You spot a monkey swinging above, dropping a fruit that lands with a splat near your foot. You laugh. Guess you're not the only one making a mess. The air's thick, and you're sweating through your krama scarf. But there's a strange peace here, like the temples and jungle have struck an uneasy truce. Don't get too sentimental, though. This reclamation's a warning. You visit another site, pre-Rupp, where a lotus tower's half collapsed, its stones scattered like a giant's spilled Legos. The Khmer kept building, but the jungle never stopped. You're starting to see why those artisans you watched worked so hard. Their carvings were a bet against time, and time's got a mean streak. For now, you're just a guest in this green war zone, listening to the forest hum as it creeps closer to the lotus tower's heart. You're still in the 12th century, but you're venturing away from Angkor's bustling core to a gem hidden in the jungle's embrace. The air's cooler here, laced with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, as you approach Banteay Srai, a temple so delicate it feels like a mirage. Its pink sandstone glows softly in the morning light, and the lotus-shaped towers are smaller, almost jewel-like, compared to Angkor Wat's giants. You're here to admire this masterpiece, its carvings so intricate they seem woven rather than chiseled. Your sandals are still damp from yesterday's jungle trek, but you're too enchanted to care. Mainstream fact. Banteay Srai, built in the 10th century, is renowned for its exquisite sandstone carvings, dedicated to Shiva and often called the jewel of Khmer art. You're standing in its courtyard, where every surface, walls, lintels, pediments, bursts with detailed reliefs of gods, nagas, and lotus motifs. Historians say it was commissioned by a noble, not a king, making it a rare non-royal temple. You trace a carved apsara, her lotus headdress so fine it looks like lace. The scale's smaller than Angkor Wat, but the craftsmanship screams perfection, like the Khmer decided to show off just this once. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some locals claim Banteay Srai's pink stone changes hue with the moon, glowing faintly at night. You're tempted to sneak back after dark to check, but a rustle in the bushes, probably a snake, convinces you to stick to daylight. Nice try, lunar legends. Historians still argue whether the temple's vivid color comes from unique sandstone or ancient treatments lost to time. You're wandering the galleries now, ducking under low doorways. The carvings are everywhere. Scenes of Vishnu riding Garuda, demons battling, lotuses curling like flames. You're close enough to see the chisel marks, each one a tiny act of devotion. A butterfly lands on your arm, and you freeze, feeling briefly like part of the temple's magic. Then it flies off, and you're back to dodging a spider web. Smooth move, nature's sidekick. The air's quiet, save for the hum of distant bees and your own breathing. Let's talk artistry. Banteay Srey's stone is softer than Angkor Wat's, letting artisans carve deeper, more delicate designs. You watch an imaginary sculptor, long gone but you're picturing him, etching a lotus bud with a bronze tool. It's slow work, years for a single wall, but the result's eternal. You're starting to see why those artisans you met were so obsessive. This place is their love letter to the gods. You try to sketch a lotus in the dirt with a stick, but it looks like a sad pancake. Art's harder than it looks. The lotus motif's subtle here, woven into every corner. You spot it in a naga's scales, in the curve of a goddess's earrings, even in the temple's layout. Its shrines blooming like petals around a central tower. You sit on a stone bench, sipping from your bamboo flask, and notice a real lotus floating in a nearby pool. It's like the temple's mirroring the world around it. A kid nearby is selling woven bracelets. You buy one, mostly to feel less like a clumsy tourist. Don't get too dreamy, though. Banteay Srey's remote, and the jungle's never far. You hear a branch snap and grip that Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng, half expecting a tiger. It's just a monkey, but your heart's racing. The temple's beauty is fragile. Monsoons and roots threaten it, like the jungle's reminding everyone who's boss. You're struck by how this place survived, its pink lotus towers still whispering stories while empires fell. For now, you're content to linger, letting Banteay Srey's quiet magic sink in. You're back in Angkor's vibrant 12th century, but the focus is shifting from stone and jungle to the spiritual currents that shaped the Khmer Empire. You're standing in a temple courtyard, the air thick with incense and the low hum of chants. Lotus-shaped towers rise around you, but now you're diving into the Khmer's religious world, tracing their shift from Hinduism to Buddhism. Monks in saffron robes shuffle past, and you're clutching a lotus flower you bought on impulse, trying to blend in. The sun's high, and your krama scarf's doing its best to keep the sweat at bay. Mainstream fact: the Khmer Empire began as a Hindu state, but gradually embraced Mahayana Buddhism by the late 12th century, especially under King Jayavarman VII. You're at Angkor Wat, Jayavarman's capital, where the Bayon temple's smiling stone faces, part Buddha, part king, watch you like serene bouncers. Hinduism, with its gods like Vishnu and Shiva, dominated earlier temples like Angkor Wat, but now Buddhist shrines are popping up, their lotus towers softer, more rounded. You touch a Bayon carving, a Buddha seated on a lotus, and feel the shift in vibe. Less cosmic grandeur, more inner peace. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some priests claimed the lotus flowers in temple ponds could predict royal fortunes, blooming wider for good omens. You're peering at a pond, half expecting a flower to wink at you, when a frog leaps out and splashes your leg. You jump, dropping your lotus. Great, now you're the comic relief. Historians still argue whether the Hindu-Buddhist blend was a smooth transition or a messy power struggle between rival priests. You're walking through Angkor Wat now, dodging ox carts and kids selling rice cakes. The Bayon's maze of galleries is disorienting, with 216 stone faces staring down. You try staring back, but it's like losing a contest with a rock. The lotus motif's still here, carved into Buddha's throne and the monks' alms bowls. You visit a smaller shrine where a monk's chanting feels like it's vibrating your bones. You're tempted to join in, but your Sanskrit's rusty, aka non-existent, so you just nod respectfully. Let's talk context. Hinduism shaped the Khmer's early god kings, with temples like Banteay Srey screaming Shiva's glory. But Buddhism's focus on compassion starts seeping in, especially after wars with the Chams left everyone exhausted. You see it in the hospitals Jayavarman VII built, their lotus-adorned chapels offering free care. You're imagining the king as a proto-philanthropist, but a trader nearby grumbles about taxes. Guess even Buddhists need funding. You buy a mango from him, mostly to avoid an argument, and it's so juicy it drips down your chin. Classy. The blend's messy, though. You visit a temple where Hindu and Buddhist statues share space, like roommates who don't quite get along. A Vishnu carving glares at a Buddha across the hall. Or maybe that's just the heat talking. Priests still perform Hindu rituals, but Buddhist monks are gaining clout. Their lotus-embroidered robes a new status symbol. You're starting to see why the Khmer loved lotuses so much. They're neutral, bridging both faiths like a cosmic Switzerland. Don't get too zen, though. This shift's not just spiritual, it's political. You hear whispers of nobles backing Buddhism to curry favor with Jayavarman VII. You're clutching that Naga amulet from Phnom Baking, wondering if it's Hindu, Buddhist, or just a lucky charm. The lotus towers around you feel like they're holding their breath, caught between gods and kings. For now, you're content to wander, mango-sticky and slightly lost, as Angkor's faith evolves under the watchful eyes of those Bayan faces. You're still in the late 12th century, deep in Angkor's jungle heart, but now you're stepping into one of its most haunting spectacles. You're at Ta Prohm, a temple where the Khmer's lotus-shaped dreams are locked in a slow dance with strangler figs and silk cotton trees. The air's damp, smelling of moss and decayed wood, and you're navigating crumbling corridors where roots twist through stone like giant fingers. The quiet's eerie, broken only by dripping water and the occasional hoot of an owl. Your krama scarf's tied tight against the humidity, but you're still sweating as you explore this iconic, tree-entwined ruin. Mainstream fact: Ta Prohm, built by Jayavarman VII around 1186, was a Buddhist monastery dedicated to his mother, with lotus-shaped towers and vast courtyards. You're standing in the main hall, where a collapsed lotus tower leans against a tree, its sandstone cracked by roots thicker than your torso. Historians say Ta Prohm housed over 12,000 people, including monks, dancers, and servants, supported by 80,000 villagers. You touch a root-wrapped lintel, feeling the stone's warmth, and marvel at how nature's turned this sacred space into a living sculpture. Now for the quirky tidbit. Locals whisper that Ta Prohm's trees choose which stones to embrace, sparing carvings of lotuses as if they're sacred. You're eyeing a bas-relief of an apsara, her lotus headdress untouched by roots, and wondering if there's truth to it. Then a leaf falls on your head, and you flinch. Guess the trees have a sense of humor. Historians still argue whether the Khmer left Ta Prohm to the jungle intentionally, as a nod to Buddhist impermanence, or simply couldn't keep up with repairs. You're weaving through the ruins now, ducking under a low arch where roots form a natural canopy. The stone floor's uneven, and you nearly trip, catching yourself on a carved naga. Its lotus-crowned head seems to smirk at your clumsiness. The trees are everywhere. Some lift stones skyward, others crush them into rubble. You spot a lotus tower half swallowed by a fig, its roots cascading like a frozen waterfall. It's mesmerizing, like the jungle's writing its own bas-relief over the Khmer's work. Let's talk scale. Ta Prohm's sprawl is massive, with 39 towers and miles of galleries. You're in a courtyard where monks once meditated, now a maze of fallen blocks and creeping vines. You imagine the bustle, chants, incense, the clink of alms bowls, before the trees moved in. A monkey swings above, dropping a nut that bounces off your shoulder. You laugh, but quietly. This place feels like it demands respect. You're starting to see why those artisans you watched poured their souls into stone, only to have nature remix their masterpiece. The lotus motif's still here, subtler now. You find it in a chipped Buddha statue, seated on a lotus throne, and in the pond where real lotuses float, mirroring the towers. You're tempted to pick one, but a rustle in the bushes, probably a lizard, reminds you to leave nature alone. You're clutching that Naga amulet from Phnom Baking, half convinced it's keeping the jungle spirits at bay. The air's thick, and your flask's almost empty, but you're too caught up in Ta Prohm's eerie beauty to care. Don't get too lost, though. This place is a reminder of fragility. You see a wall where a single root's split a lotus carving in half, like a warning. The Khmer built for eternity, but the jungle had other plans. You're starting to feel the weight of time here, heavier than the stones. For now, you're just a visitor, threading through tree and temple, as Ta Prohm's lotus towers stand caught in their strange, silent embrace. You're still in the late 12th century, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine and wood smoke, but you're stepping away from Ta Prohm's tree-choked ruins to shine a light on the unsung heroes of Angkor. It's women. You're in a bustling village just outside the city, where wooden stilt houses creak under the weight of daily life. Women are everywhere, weaving, cooking, trading, and you're here to uncover their overlooked roles in the Khmer Empire. Your sandals are dusty from the path, and you're clutching a woven basket a vendor handed you, trying to look like you belong. Mainstream fact: women in the Khmer Empire played vital roles in agriculture, trade, and religious life, often managing households and local economies. You're watching a group of women pound rice in a courtyard, their pestles thumping in rhythm like a heartbeat. Inscriptions from temples like Angkor Wat list women as donors, dancers, and even landowners, showing they had more agency than in many contemporary societies. You approach a woman selling lotus-shaped rice cakes, her hands quick as she wraps them in banana leaves. She offers you one, and it's warm, sticky, and faintly sweet, better than your attempt at sketching lotuses back at Bontier Sray. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some believe Khmer women used lotus petals in beauty rituals, soaking them in water for glowing skin. You're tempted to try it, dipping a petal from your basket into a clay pot. But a stray goat nibbles your krama scarf, and you're distracted. Beauty regimen cancelled. Historians still argue whether these rituals were widespread or just elite practices, with temple carvings showing only high-status women adorned with lotuses. You're moving through the village now, dodging kids chasing a chicken. A woman's weaving palm fronds into mats, her fingers a blur. You try to mimic her, but your mat looks like a bird's nest, and she laughs, handing you a mango instead. You're starting to see how women kept Angkor running. They farmed rice alongside men, like those you met in the paddies, and ran market stalls piled with fish, bronze, and cloth. You visit a shrine where women offer lotus buds to a goddess statue, their prayers soft but steady. It's a reminder that faith here isn't just for monks. Women are spiritual anchors, too. Let's talk scope. Women weren't just background players. You hear stories of female Apsara dancers, trained from childhood to perform in temples, their lotus headdresses glinting in torchlight. You imagine them at Ta Prohm, before the trees took over, their movements echoing the carvings you've seen. Some women even served as midwives or healers, using herbs and, lotus infusions. You're offered a cup of herbal tea by an elderly vendor. It's bitter, and you hide a grimace. She chuckles like she knows you're faking it. The vibe's lively, but tough. You see a woman bartering fiercely with a trader, her voice sharp as she haggles over silk. She wins, and you're impressed. She'd eat modern salespeople for lunch. But life's not easy. Monsoons, taxes, and the constant demand for rice keep everyone on edge. You're starting to get why that Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng feels like a lifeline. Women here juggle faith and grit daily. You spot a lotus bloom tucked into a weaver's hair, a small act of beauty amid the grind. Don't overlook the power dynamics, though. Elite women like Jayavarman Sarsevan's mother honored at Taprom had clout, but village women worked in the shadows. You're standing by a canal, watching women haul water, their chatter mixing with the splash. They're the empire's pulse, yet their names rarely made it onto temple walls. For now, you're just a guest, mango sticky and humbled, as these women's quiet strength keeps Angkor's lotus towers standing tall. You're still in the vibrant 12th century, but now you're leaving the village hum to follow the pulse of Angkor's wealth. Its trade routes. You're trudging along a packed dirt road, the air buzzing with the scent of spices and the jangle of ox cart bells. Merchants from across Asia bustle around you, their baskets piled with silk, bronze, and lotus-shaped incense burners. You're here to travel with them, tracing the networks that funneled riches into the Khmer Empire's lotus-adorned temples. Your krama scarfs slipping, and you're dodging mud puddles, trying to keep up with the caravan's rhythm. Mainstream fact: the Khmer Empire thrived on trade, connecting Southeast Asia with China, India, and beyond, via land and river routes. You're at a market near Angkor Wat, where traders hawk goods from as far as Persia: saffron, jade, and glass beads. Temples like Angkor Wat were funded by this wealth, with inscriptions listing tribute from vassal states. You watch a merchant weigh bronze ingots with a scale, his eyes sharp as he barters with a Chinese sailor. The lotus motifs everywhere, on silk bolts, clay pots, even the merchant's earrings. You're starting to see how trade made those towers possible. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some traders carried lotus seeds as talismans, believing they'd ensure safe journeys. You're offered one by a grizzled vendor, his hands stained with turmeric. You pocket it, but when you trip over a cartwheel and nearly faceplant, you're doubting its magic. Historians still argue whether these trade routes were tightly controlled by the Khmer crown or a chaotic free-for-all among local lords. You're moving with the caravan now, your sandals caked with dust. The roads lined with banyan trees, their shade a mercy in the heat. You pass a canal where boats unload rice and sandalwood, their prows carved with lotus buds. A trader offers you a sip of rice wine from a gourd. It's sharp, and you cough, earning a laugh from his crew. You're getting the hang of this, though. Haggling for a lotus-shaped bronze pin, you talk the price down a bit. Not bad for a time-traveling rookie. Let's talk scale. Angkor was a trade hub, linking the Mekong River to overland paths stretching to modern Thailand and Vietnam. You're imagining silk from China, spices from India, all flowing to fund Suryavarman II's temple frenzy. You visit a warehouse, its shelves stacked with clay jars sealed with lotus-stamped wax. The wealth's staggering, but so's the hustle. Merchants sleep little, dodging bandits and monsoons. You're starting to respect their grind, especially after you drop your new pin in the mud. Clumsy, but recoverable. The lotus ties it all together. You notice it in a trader's tattoo, a blooming flower inked on his arm for luck. At a riverside shrine, merchants offer lotus buds to Nagas for safe passage. You join in, tossing your talisman seed into the water, mostly to fit in. A fish snaps it up, and you're half convinced you've cursed your own luck. The market's alive with languages: Khmer, Cham, Sanskrit, blending like the goods. You're struck by how global Angkor was, a cosmopolitan web long before Wi-Fi. Don't get too dazzled, though. Trade's risky. Pirates lurk on rivers and taxes hit hard. You overhear a merchant grumbling about royal levies, sounding like he'd rather wrestle a crocodile than pay up. You're clutching that Naga amulet from Phnom Penh, wondering if it's worth trading for a better flask. The lotus towers in the distance gleam, built on this wealth, but you're sensing cracks in the empire's shine. For now, you're just a traveler, lotus pin in hand, following the trade routes that keep Angkor's heart beating. You're still in the late 12th century, but the vibrant hum of Angkor's markets and trade routes is fading into a quieter, more ominous tone. The lotus-shaped temples still stand tall, their sandstone glowing under the sun, but you're about to dive into the mystery that haunts historians, the collapse of Angkor. You're walking a deserted path near the West Baray, the once mirrored water now choked with silt and lotus leaves. The air's heavy, with a distant rumble of thunder, and you're here to ponder what brought this mighty empire to its knees. Your krama scarf's fraying, and you're swatting mosquitoes, feeling the weight of a city on the brink. Mainstream fact. Angkor's decline, starting around the 13th century, likely stemmed from a mix of environmental stress, overpopulation, and political instability. You're standing by a crumbling canal, its banks eroded from years of erratic monsoons. Historians point to climate shifts, droughts followed by floods, that strained the barays and rice fields you saw earlier. The Khmer's water system, once a marvel, couldn't keep up, leaving farmers like the ones you met starving. You kick a loose stone, watching it sink into the mud, and sense the fragility of even the grandest empires. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some locals believed Angkor's fall angered the Nagas, who withdrew their protection, letting the jungle invade. You're eyeing a lotus tower half covered in vines, wondering if those serpent spirits are still sulking. You toss a pebble into the baray, half hoping for a Naga to surface, but all you get is a ripple and a frog's glare. Guess you're not mythical material. Historians still argue whether environmental factors alone doomed Angkor, or if internal revolts and invasions, like from the Thai Ayutthaya kingdom, tipped the scales. You're wandering through a ghost town version of Angkor Thom now, its streets eerily empty. The Bayan's smiling faces look sadder, or maybe that's just the dusk playing tricks. You spot a cracked lotus carving, its petals chipped, and feel a pang for the artisans who poured their lives into it. The silence is heavy, broken only by wind rustling through banyan trees. You're starting to see why Ta Prohm's trees felt so triumphant. Nature was already winning battles while the Khmer were distracted. Let's talk theories. You're imagining the rice paddies drying up, markets emptying, and temples falling silent. Some say overpopulation stretched resources thin. Others blame deforestation for worsening floods. You visit a derelict shrine, its lotus-shaped altar overgrown with moss. A rusted bronze bell lies in the dirt, and you're tempted to ring it. But it's stuck fast. Symbolic, maybe. A lone monkey watches you, and you offer it a bit of mango from your pouch. It snatches it and bolts, leaving you to laugh at your own generosity. The human side hits hard. You picture the women you met. Their weaving and rice cakes no longer enough to feed families. Kings like Jayavarman VII kept building, but cracks were forming, literally and figuratively. You're clutching that Naga amulet from Phnom Penh, wondering if anyone here felt the end coming. A storm's brewing, and you're dodging the first raindrops, your flask empty and your sandals squelching. The lotus towers still stand, but they're lonelier now, monuments to a dream that couldn't outrun time. Don't get too gloomy, though. Angkor's fall wasn't instant. It was a slow bleed. You're standing by a canal, watching real lotuses bob in the murky water, stubborn as ever. The Khmer didn't vanish. They adapted, moving south to new capitals like Phnom Penh. But Angkor's lotus heart was left to the jungle, a puzzle no one's fully solved. For now, you're just a wanderer, rain-soaked and thoughtful, piecing together the enigma of a city that thought it'd last forever. You're no longer in the 12th century's fading Angkor, but fast-forwarded to the 19th century, where the jungle has all but swallowed the Khmer's lotus-shaped temples. You're hacking through dense vines, the air thick with the buzz of insects and the scent of wet earth. You're not alone. European explorers led by Frenchman Henri Mouhot are with you, their pith helmets bobbing as they stumble upon Angkor's lost cities. It's 1860, and you're here to join their rediscovery of a world the West barely knew existed. Your boots are caked with mud, and you're swatting at a mosquito the size of your ego, but the thrill of uncovering history keeps you going. Mainstream fact: Henri Mouhot's 1860 expedition, sponsored by the French, brought Angkor Wat and other Khmer temples to global attention, sparking Western fascination. You're at Angkor Wat's western gate, watching Mouhot sketch the lotus towers, their silhouettes half hidden by strangler figs. His journals describe the temples as rivaling Rome's ruins, a claim that helped cement Angkor's fame. You run your hand over a mossy bas-relief, feeling the same awe Mouhot did, though you're also wondering how he dealt with the humidity without losing his mind. Now for the quirky tidbit. Locals guiding Mouhot claimed the temples were built by giants, not humans, because no mortal could move such stones. You're eyeing a massive lotus tower, half convinced they're onto something, until you trip over a root and land in a puddle. Giants wouldn't be this clumsy. Historians still argue whether Mouhot discovered Angkor or simply popularized it, since Cambodian villagers never forgot the temples, using them for worship even in decline. You're trudging behind the expedition now, dodging low branches. Mouhot's team is a mix of French botanists and local porters, their chatter blending French with Khmer. You're carrying a sketchbook, trying to capture a lotus carving, but your drawing looks like a lumpy potato. A porter laughs, offering you a slice of jackfruit, sticky, sweet, and a mess on your fingers. You're starting to see why the locals never left. These ruins, choked as they are, still hum with life. Let's talk context. Angkor wasn't truly lost. Villagers and monks kept its memory alive, but centuries of jungle growth hid it from outsiders. You visit Ta Prohm, where Mouhot's team gasps at the tree root chaos you saw centuries ago. The lotus towers are barely visible, but their elegance shines through. You're imagining the Khmer women you met, their descendants still offering lotuses at shrines nearby. Mouhot's sketches are meticulous, but he misses the spiritual pulse you've felt since Phnom Baking. The rediscovery's not all romantic. You're sweating through your shirt, and the explorer's excitement is tempered by fever and leeches. Mouhot himself won't survive much longer. You're clutching that Naga amulet, half hoping it'll ward off whatever's biting your ankle. The team's hacking at vines, revealing a carved apsara, her lotus headdress intact. You're struck by how time's layered here. Khmer artisans, jungle spirits, and now these foreigners, all claiming a piece of Angkor's story. Don't get too starry-eyed, though. The French see Angkor as a colonial trophy, and you overhear talk of civilizing the region. You're starting to feel the weight of their gaze, so different from the farmer's grounded reverence. You pause by a lotus-filled pond, where a monk burns incense, ignoring the newcomers. His quiet defiance grounds you. The temple's rediscovery is a spark, but it's also a clash of worlds. For now, you're just a witness, jackfruit sticky and awestruck, as Angkor's lotus towers emerge from the jungle's grip into a new era's light. You're now in the 21st century, standing amidst the ancient lotus-shaped temples of Angkor, but the scene's a blend of past and present. The jungle's still here, its vines curling around weathered stone, but so are scaffolding, cranes, and teams of conservators in hard hats. You're here to observe modern efforts to preserve the Khmer ruins, a battle against time, weather, and tourism's heavy tread. The air smells of dust and diesel, with a faint whiff of lotus blooms from a nearby pond. Your boots crunch on gravel, and you're clutching that Naga amulet from Phnom Baking, hoping it'll keep you from tripping over a loose stone. Mainstream fact: since the 1990s, international teams, led by UNESCO and the Cambodian government, have worked to restore Angkor's temples, stabilizing structures like Angkor Wat and Ta Prohm. You're at Angkor Wat's central courtyard, where Indian and German conservators are reinforcing a lotus tower's foundation. Laser scanners hum, mapping cracks invisible to the eye, while workers relay stones using traditional Khmer techniques. You watch a mason fit a sandstone block, her precision echoing the artisans you saw centuries ago. This effort's saved countless structures, but it's a race against monsoon erosion and root invasion. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some workers believe lotus flowers planted near restoration sites bring good luck to their efforts. You're handed a pink bloom by a smiling conservator who insists it's temple-approved. You tuck it behind your ear, feeling briefly cool until a gust blows it into a puddle. Luck's not your forte today. Historians still argue whether restoration should prioritize authenticity, using original methods, or embrace modern materials to ensure longevity. You're weaving through the site now, dodging a wheelbarrow piled with laterite. At Ta Prohm, conservators are stabilizing a tree-strangled lotus tower, deciding which roots to keep for that iconic look. You're tempted to suggest they leave it all, nature's got style, but you're distracted by a drone buzzing overhead, capturing 3D models. The tech's wild, but you're more drawn to a Cambodian worker chiseling a lotus motif to replace a shattered one. His hands move like he's channeling Bante Sray's sculptors, and you're half convinced he is. Let's talk scale. Angkor's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with millions in funding from Japan, France, and others. You're imagining the budget sheets, more zeros than a monsoon rain count. But it's not just money, it's people. You meet a local archaeologist, her face lined with pride as she explains how Cambodians lead many projects now, not just foreigners like Muhot's crew. She offers you a sip of coconut water. It's cold, a rare treat, and you're savoring it like it's ambrosia. Your mango sticky days feel far away. The challenges are brutal, though. You're at Pre-Rup, where a lotus tower's tilting from groundwater shifts. Conservators debate draining the soil or injecting concrete, both risky. You're starting to see why those berets you marveled at are double-edged. Their legacy messes with modern engineering. Tourism's another beast. Millions trample Angkor yearly, wearing down stones faster than jungles ever did. You step aside for a tour group, their cameras flashing, and feel a pang for the quiet of Taumanon. Don't get too cynical, though. You visit a training school where young Cambodians learn stone carving, their chisels etching lotuses like it's 1150 again. A kid shows you his work, a Naga with lotus eyes, and you're impressed. He's got skills you'll never touch. The amulet in your pocket feels heavier, like it's nodding approval. These efforts aren't just saving temples, they're keeping Khmer culture alive. For now, you're a bystander, lotusless but hopeful, watching Angkor's towers stand a little taller under careful hands. You're still in the 21st century, but you're leaving Angkor's bustling restoration sites for a quieter, more remote corner of the Khmer world. You're climbing a steep, rocky trail toward Preah Vihear, a cliffside temple perched on the Dangrek Mountains, straddling the Cambodia-Thailand border. The air's thinner, laced with pine and dust, and the lotus-shaped towers ahead glint against a stark blue sky. It's a trek, Your legs are burning, and your boots are slipping on loose gravel. But you're here to explore this lesser-known gem, a sacred site with a view that could steal your breath if the climb doesn't. Your Naga amulet's tucked safe, though you're half convinced it's the only thing keeping you from tumbling down. Mainstream fact: Preah Vihear, built in the 9th to 11th centuries, is a Hindu temple dedicated to Shiva, famed for its dramatic cliffside location and intricate carvings. You're standing on its highest terrace, 500 meters above the plains, where lotus bud towers crown a long, stepped causeway. UNESCO listed it as a World Heritage Site in 2008, but its border position sparked disputes between Cambodia and Thailand. You touch a weathered lintel, carved with lotus-wreathed nagas, and feel the weight of a place that's both spiritual and contested. The wind's fierce, tugging at your krama scarf, but the view's worth every step. Now for the quirky tidbit. Locals say Preah Vihear's stones glow faintly during thunderstorms, a sign of Shiva's presence. You're scanning the horizon for clouds, half hoping for a spark, but a pebble skitters underfoot, and you nearly lose your balance. Shiva's probably laughing. Historians still argue whether the temple was primarily a pilgrimage site or a strategic outpost, given its commanding view over the plains. You're exploring the temple now, weaving through gopuras, gateways adorned with lotus motifs. The carvings here are crisper than top roams, spared by less jungle. You spot an apsara, her lotus headdress chipped but graceful, and imagine her dancing for pilgrims centuries ago. A Cambodian guard, rifle slung casually, nods as you pass. You're tempted to ask about the border tensions, but his smile's more about the present than the past, so you just nod back. A hawk circles above, and you're momentarily distracted, tripping over a stone. Classic clumsy explorer move. Let's talk layout. Preah Vihear's linear design stretches along the cliff, each level a step closer to the divine. You're climbing stone stairs, your calves screaming, to reach the main sanctuary. The lotus towers here are smaller, almost delicate, but they feel invincible against the drop below. You're picturing the Khmer women you met, some climbing these steps to offer lotuses to Shiva. A real lotus bloom lies on a cracked altar, left by a recent visitor, and you're struck by how faith endures, even in this remote outpost. The isolation's palpable. You're sipping from your flask, the water warm but welcome, and noticing how quiet it is. No tourist crowds, just wind and the occasional bird. You're starting to see why Preah Vihear's less famous. It's a hike and the border drama keeps some away. But that makes it special. Like Tamanan, it's a secret kept by those who bother to come. You're imagining Muho's awe, wishing he'd made it here to sketch these lotus towers against the sky. Don't get too romantic, though. The temple's seen conflict. Shelling in the 2000s scarred some stones, and you spot a patched wall, a reminder of modern struggles. You're clutching that Naga amulet, wondering if it's seen worse. The guard's presence hints at lingering tensions, but for now, it's peaceful. You sit on a ledge, legs dangling over the void, and watch the plains stretch endless below. Preah Vihear's lotus towers stand proud, whispering of a Khmer world that still commands reverence, even on the edge of nowhere. You're still in the 21st century, but you're stepping away from Preah Vihear's windswept cliffs to explore how the Khmer Empire's legacy pulses in modern Cambodia. You're in Siem Reap, a bustling town near Angkor, where tuk-tuks hum and street vendors hawk lotus-shaped trinkets. The air's warm, scented with grilled fish and jasmine, and you're here to connect the ancient lotus towers to today's culture. Food, dance, faith, and pride. Your boots are dusty from the climb, and you're sipping iced coffee from a roadside stall, feeling that Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng bounce against your chest as you weave through the crowd. Mainstream fact: Cambodia's culture, from its cuisine to its Buddhist practices, draws heavily on Khmer traditions, with Angkor's temples as a national symbol. You're at a night market, where stalls sell amok, a creamy fish curry steamed in lotus leaves, echoing the rice cakes those village women made centuries ago. The royal ballet, with its apsara dancers, mimics the lotus-crowned figures you saw carved in Banteay Srey. You watch a street performance, the dancers' hands curling like petals, and feel Angkor's spirit alive in their grace. Cambodia's flag even features Angkor Wat, a nod to its enduring pride. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some Cambodians believe lotus flowers in pagodas channel ancestral spirits, linking them to Angkor's temples. You're at a local pagoda, where monks arrange lotuses on an altar, their saffron robes bright against the stone. You try to light an incense stick, but it keeps going out. Guess the spirits aren't impressed with your technique. Historians still argue whether modern Khmer identity leans more on Angkor's Hindu roots or its Buddhist evolution, a debate you sensed at the Bayon. You're wandering the market now, dodging scooters and kids selling postcards. A vendor offers you prahok, a fermented fish paste that's basically Cambodia's national condiment. You try a dab, and it's intense, like the jungle's revenge in food form. You smile weakly, buying a lotus-shaped soap to change the subject. The vendor laughs, and you're starting to see how Angkor's practicality, those berets, those rice fields, lives on in this resourceful, lively culture. Everyone's hustling, just like the merchants you trailed on trade routes. Let's talk scope. Angkor's influence is everywhere. You visit a school where kids learn traditional carving, etching lotuses into wood like the artisans of old. A teacher shows you a student's work, a naga with lotus eyes, and you're reminded of Preah Vihear's cliffside carvings. Buddhism, cemented by Jayavarman VII, shapes daily life. Pagodas dot the landscape, their spires echoing lotus towers. You're struck by how the Khmer's resilience, from surviving monsoons to rebuilding after the Khmer Rouge, mirrors the stubborn lotuses you saw in muddy berets. The connection's not just nostalgic. You're at a festival where locals offer lotuses to monks for Bunok Pansa, a Buddhist holiday. The crowd's chanting, and you join in, mumbling to fake it, feeling briefly part of something ancient. But modernity's here too. Tourists snap selfies, and a kid's playing a pop song on his phone. You're starting to get why Angkor's not just ruins. It's a living thread, tying past to present. Your coffee's gone cold, but you're too caught up to care. Don't ignore the challenges, though. You hear a vendor grumble about tourism's strain. Trash, overcrowding, and rising prices echo the overpopulation you pondered during Angkor's fall. Yet there's pride, too. A tuk-tuk driver points to Angkor Wat on his shirt, saying, "Our heart." You're clutching that amulet, feeling its weight as a bridge across centuries. For now, you're a guest in this vibrant tapestry, lotus soap in hand, watching Cambodia carry its Khmer soul forward with every dance, dish, and prayer. You're still in the 21st century, immersed in Cambodia's vibrant present, but now you're venturing beyond Siem Reap's bustling markets to a lesser-known outpost of the Khmer legacy. You're trekking through the northern jungle, the air thick with the chirp of crickets and the scent of damp soil, toward Ko Ker, a remote city of crumbling pyramids and lotus-shaped shrines. It's a bumpy ride, your tuk-tuks rattling over rutted paths, and you're clinging to your seat, the Naga amulet from Phnom Bakheng bouncing against your chest. You're here to explore this forgotten capital, a brief but dazzling chapter in the Khmer story. Mainstream fact: Ko Ker, the Khmer capital, from 928 to 944 under King Jayavarman IV, is famed for its unique seven-tiered pyramid, Prasat Tom, and scattered lotus-adorned temples. You're standing at the pyramid's base, its steep steps rising 40 meters, crowned by a lotus bud shrine. Unlike Angkor's sprawling grids, Khmer's 35 temples are spread across a jungle maze, built in just 16 years. You touch a weathered sandstone block, carved with faint lotus petals, and feel the audacity of a king who ditched Angkor to build his own cosmic hub. The jungle's quieter than Siem Reap, but a distant gibbon's call keeps you alert. Now for the quirky tidbit. Locals say Khmer's pyramid hums during rare lunar eclipses, a sound tied to ancient rituals. You're squinting at the sky, hoping for a moonlit hum, but a twig snaps underfoot, and you jump. Eclipse or not, the jungle's got your nerves. Historians still argue whether Khmer's brief reign was a bold experiment or a rebellious power grab by Jayavarman IV, who ruled far from Angkor's established elite. You're climbing Prasat Tom now, your thighs burning as you grip the uneven steps. The view's stunning. Jungle stretching endless, dotted with lotus-shaped ruins like Prasat Krahom, its red laterite glowing faintly. You spot a naga carving, its lotus-crowned head chipped but proud, and think of the artisans you watched at Angkor Wat. A lizard skitters by and you laugh. Nature's still the boss, just like at Taprom. You're tempted to sketch the pyramid, but your Bantier Srey potato drawing disaster keeps you humble. Instead, you sip warm water from your flask, savoring the solitude. Let's talk scale. Khmer's temples, though smaller than Angkor's, are bold. Some statues here were over 6 meters tall, looted long ago. You're imagining Jayavarman IV's court, priests chanting as lotuses floated in sacred pools. You visit Prasat Ling, a shrine with lotus-carved lingas, where the air feels heavy, like it's holding secrets. A local guide, his krama scarf faded, points out a hidden lotus relief, missed by most. You thank him with a nod, wishing you'd brought more mangoes to share. The vibe's different here. Wilder, less polished than Angkor Wat. You're weaving through overgrown paths, dodging vines that remind you of the jungle's slow takeover centuries ago. Khmer's isolation preserved it from tourism's wear, but also left it vulnerable. Looters and monsoons have taken their toll. You're starting to see why it's lesser known. It's a trek, and Siem Reap's flashier ruins steal the spotlight. But that rawness is its charm, like finding a rough draft of the Khmer's lotus obsession. Don't get too lost in the romance, though. You hear your guide mention landmines, a grim legacy of Cambodia's 20th century conflicts, still lurking in these jungles. You're sticking to the path, clutching that amulet tighter. Khmer's a time capsule, but it's not frozen. Real lotuses bloom in a nearby stream, tying this ruin to the paddies and pagodas you've seen. For now, you're a wanderer, sweat-soaked and awestruck, as Khmer's pyramids and lotus shrines whisper of a Khmer dream that burned bright, then faded into the green. You're still in the 21st century, but you're pulling back from Khmer's jungle-choked pyramids to reflect on the broader legacy of the Khmer Empire's lotus-shaped temples. You're sitting on a weathered stone bench in Siem Reap, near a quiet pagoda where lotus blooms float in a pond. The air's soft, scented with incense and evening dew, and the distant hum of tuk-tuks feels like a gentle pulse. You're here to weave together the threads of Angkor's story, its art, faith, and enduring mystique, and how they echo across time. Your krama scarf's loosely tied, and you're fingering that naga amulet from Phnom Baking, feeling its weight as a tether to the past. Mainstream fact: The Khmer Empire's temples, particularly Angkor Wat, are global icons, symbolizing Cambodia's cultural resilience and architectural genius. You're picturing Angkor Wat's lotus towers, their silhouette on Cambodia's flag, a nod to a 12th century peak that still shapes national identity. UNESCO's protection and global tourism, over 2 million visitors annually, keep these sites alive, but also strain them, as you saw with the restoration teams. You glance at the pagoda's spire, a modern lotus bud, and realize the Khmer's aesthetic is woven into Cambodia's soul, from temple carvings to market crafts. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some Cambodians believe meditating near lotus-adorned temples can spark visions of ancient kings. You're tempted to try it, sitting cross-legged by the pond, but a mosquito buzzes your ear, and your Zen moment's more of a swatting session. Royal visions, 0. Bug bites, 1. Historians still argue whether Angkor's legacy is more about spiritual continuity, tying Buddhist Cambodia to its Hindu roots, or a secular symbol of nationhood in a globalized world. You're strolling through Siem Reap's streets now, passing shops selling lotus-etched jewelry and silk scarves. A vendor's radio plays a Khmer pop song, its rhythm faintly echoing the Apsara dances you saw. You're starting to see how the Khmer's lotus obsession lives on, not just in ruins but in everyday life. You stop at a stall for kuitev, a noodle soup with a lotus leaf garnish. It's steaming, fragrant, and you're slurping it clumsily, earning a grin from the cook. It's a far cry from the prahok you barely survived, but it feels like a nod to those village women's resourcefulness. Let's talk impact. The Khmer's influence stretches beyond Cambodia. You're thinking of the global fascination, from Muhot's sketches to Hollywood's Tomb Raider filming at Top Rome. But it's the local pride that hits hardest. You chat with a young artist painting lotus towers on canvas, his brushwork echoing Bantier Sray's precision. He says Angkor's not just history, it's our heartbeat. You're reminded of the kids carving nagas, the monks offering lotuses, the farmers you met whose ancestors fed an empire. The lotus ties it all together, a symbol of resilience blooming through centuries. The legacy's not without shadows. You're recalling the border tensions at Preah Vihear, the looting at Koh Ker, the tourism strain you saw at Angkor Wat. Yet Cambodia keeps moving forward, balancing preservation with progress. You're at the pagoda again, watching a family light candles, their faces soft in the glow. The lotus blooms bob gently, and you're struck by how this simple flower carries so much: faith, art, survival. You're tempted to buy another lotus soap, but your pack's already stuffed, and you're not that clumsy tourist anymore. Don't get too sentimental, though. The Khmer legacy's alive because people fight for it. Conservators, artists, even that tuk-tuk driver with Angkor on his shirt. You're clutching the amulet, feeling its edges worn smooth, like the stones you've touched from Tomanon to Koh Ker. The lotus towers stand as a promise. Beauty endures, even when empires fade. For now, you're just a traveler, soup-warmed and reflective, letting Siem Reap's evening wrap you in the Khmer's timeless embrace. You're still in Siem Reap's gentle evening glow, the hum of the town fading as you settle by that same pagoda pond, its lotus blooms catching the moonlight. The air's cooler now, laced with the faint sweetness of frangipani, and you're here to wrap up this journey through the Khmer Empire's lost cities and their lotus-shaped temples. You're reflecting on their timeless allure, the way they've captivated kings, explorers, and even you, a wanderer with a Naga amulet and a knack for tripping over roots. Your krama scarf's draped loosely, and you're tracing the amulet's curves, ready to let the lotus tower's mystique linger like a soft whisper. Mainstream fact: Angkor's temples, from Angkor Wat to Koh Ker, remain a global symbol of architectural and spiritual ambition, drawing scholars and tourists who marvel at their lotus-inspired design. You're picturing the central tower of Angkor Wat, its lotus bud piercing the sky, a 12th century masterpiece that's outlasted empires. Studies show over 2.5 million visitors flock to Angkor annually, each drawn to the same beauty you felt at Banteay Srey or Preah Vihear. You lean toward the pond, watching a lotus bob, and feel connected to every soul who stood before these towers, from Jayavarman II to that artist in Siem Reap. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some locals swear that sleeping near a lotus pond after visiting Angkor brings dreams of ancient dancers. You're half tempted to curl up right here, but a frog plops into the water, splashing your sandal. Guess the dancers will have to wait. Historians still argue whether the temple's enduring allure comes from their cosmic design, tying Earth to the heavens, or their sheer resilience against jungle and time. You're letting your mind wander now, replaying the journey. You see the rice paddies where farmers toiled, their lotuses mirroring the towers. The berets, vast as seas, feeding an empire. Ta Prom's trees, embracing stone like old friends. You're thinking of the women weaving mats, the merchants trading lotus-stamped goods, the artisans carving apsaras with such care. Each moment, from Tamenan's quiet ruins to Ko Khair's bold pyramids, feels like a petal in the lotus of Khmer history, delicate, yet unbreakable. You smile, remembering your mango sticky fumbles and that Prahok disaster. You're no god king, but you've walked their paths. Let's talk magic. The Lotus Tower's allure isn't just their beauty, it's their story. You're recalling Muho's awe, the conservator's grit, the monk's prayers in Siem Reap's pagodas. The Khmer built for eternity, not knowing their cities would fall, yet here they stand, inspiring even now. You're imagining the Bayans' smiling faces, watching centuries unfold, and Preah Vihear's cliffside solitude, whispering to the wind. The lotus, blooming from mud, feels like their secret. No matter the chaos, something pure endures. You're starting to get why that tuk-tuk driver called Angkor our heart. The night's deepening, and you're feeling the pull of rest. You're picturing Cambodia's future, where kids carve nagas and dancers weave lotus gestures, keeping the Khmer alive. The pond's still now, its lotuses closed for the night, and you're struck by their quiet strength. You're not ready to leave this world, not the jungle, the stones, or the stories, but the journey's winding down. You tuck the amulet away, its weight a gentle reminder of every step, from Phnom Bakheng's sunrise to this moonlit moment. And so you're resting by the pond, the world softening around you. The lotus blooms drift, their petals tucked tight, like secrets held until dawn. You're letting the Khmer's story settle, its lotus towers fading into a gentle haze. The pagoda's glow is dim, the air a caress of jasmine and cool night. You're safe here, wrapped in the echo of ancient chants, the hum of artisans' chisels, the ripple of berets under starlight. There's no rush, no need to chase the next ruin or dodge the next monkey. Just breathe, slow and deep, letting the jungle's pulse cradle you. Feel the amulet in your pocket, warm from your touch, a bridge to kings and farmers who dreamed in stone. Their lotuses bloom still, in Siem Reap's markets, in dancers' hands, in your memory. You're sinking into the earth's rhythm, the same one that lifted Angkor from mud to majesty. The stars above are soft, the night a blanket, and you're drifting, carried by the Khmer's timeless grace. Let the towers stand guard, their lotus buds watching over you. No worries, no hurry, just peace, blooming quietly in the dark. Sleep now, wrapped in the lotus's embrace, where empires fade but beauty lingers. The pond's a mirror, reflecting only calm. You're part of this story, a wanderer who walked with gods and left footprints in time. Rest easy, sweet dreamer, as the Khmer's whispers guide you into the night.